I proposed to Debbie in 2017. We've been together, what, 6 years prior.
We met at Cowboys Red River, which is a honky-tonk. I was out with my girlfriends and he was out with his guy friends, and we ended up meeting on the dance floor. I was out dancing with my girlfriends to a Lady Gaga song, and they came onto the dance floor, and the rest is history. We started texting and then went to dinner, and then we started dating.
So the common joke was we're gonna get married in 2026 in say June or July 2026. So we talk about marriage off and on, we'd look at rings off and on. So finally I went and got her a ring, and we had a 10K run we were doing in Disney World. So I walked around the park one of the days prior to the run with that ring in my pocket, worried I was gonna lose it the whole time. And so finally we got to a spot. I'm like, okay, we'll do it in front of the castle. So we stood there to get our picture taken by one of the photographers, and that's when I dropped down on the knee and proposed to her. But we still no real plans till 2026. And so she would say to me, "You're not gonna go through this." Yeah, I'll marry you tomorrow. And
you would say I wouldn't go through it.
Yeah, and then I'd say she wouldn't go through it. And she goes, "Well, you're lucky you'd marry me tomorrow because we need 3 days prior to getting the wedding certificate." And I said, "Well, I'll marry you in 3 days, whatever you need." So the common joke was I'd say she wouldn't say yes, she'd say I wouldn't say yes.
So he did. He would always say, "I'd marry you tomorrow," and I'd be, "Okay, think about it," and hem and haw, and I wasn't ever ready to get married tomorrow. And then when he said, "Well, let's have a 50th birthday party," I thought, well, this might be a good time to surprise him with the wedding. So since he always said he'd marry me tomorrow.
So we talked about our 50th birthday. We talked about it for quite a few years because I thought it was gonna be a little rough on her. And so we've talked about going somewhere for a destination for her 50th, and then we thought about staying here. We thought about throwing the party here at the house versus getting a venue.
It just came to me. So I thought, if we're gonna have a 50th birthday party, then let's make it into a wedding. Because he said that I was never actually gonna ever really marry him. We were just gonna be engaged forever. So I thought I'd prove him wrong and have a birthday wedding. So it started, I decided immediately that if we were gonna get married, that I wanted his dad to marry us. So I called them on the phone, and I was so nervous to call them, and I don't know, almost like I was asking for his hand in marriage, but can he become ordained and would he marry us? And there's this long pause because I was on speakerphone, and his mom said, "You want my Roger to marry you?" And I was like, yes. So then he got ordained, and the rest was history. And Roger came up with the idea of finding a venue that had a place that we could hide that was already pre-decorated for the wedding. So then I was on a mission to find that. And the next day, after they said, "It's a great idea, let's do it, Roger will marry you," we got on a plane to fly to Seattle, actually, where they're from. And that was the first secret, and it was the hardest, not to turn to him on the plane and say, "Oh my gosh, Roger said he'd marry us." And I had to, because you want to share all the fun news and stories with your best friend, and I couldn't. I had to keep it all secret.
So she found these venues, and she's planning, I got this for my 50th, this for my 50th, and I didn't really think anything of it, because I didn't think she would really plan a wedding without me. Never crossed my mind. And I'd always make jokes. God, it's like Christmas here every day with the Amazon man coming, and it's because she was, now that I know, she's planning for her 50th birthday and a wedding.
But what went through my mind during the planning was, at first it was just all fun. I love to plan, I'm very organized, my lists have lists. So it was fun to look through Etsy and find all the fireworks holders and this and that. And then as I got closer, nerves kicked in for sure. Like, can we really pull this off? As I'm checking with each vendor, is it still a secret? Yes, and having code words and just still trying to call it the birthday party instead of slipping and saying wedding. I think it made more sense to keep the surprise not only from the groom, but as many people as possible, because the more people that knew, the more likely it would be to get slipped somehow, some way. So I needed friends. I recruited my I Do crew to help me out. So it was a small population of friends that I knew could keep a secret and would help me out. And of course, everyone I told was more than ecstatic to help out. And so I recruited help with the dress, with picking up the flowers. I put my sister in charge of something borrowed, something blue, and all that stuff.
As we're getting closer to the birthday party, my Mom said that, hey, I want to stay a couple extra days. We have other friends that came in town Friday, so we all went to dinner, and it seemed like it was the Chris show. They keep on bringing up stories about me, and I'm like, this is odd.
It was all your family.
Yeah, it was all my family, but I'm like, this ain't about me. This is Debbie's birthday.
Did I seem nervous? Did I act any different that week?
I don't think so.
No, I just wondered what your perception of how I had acted that week. What do you think when I started deleting texts in front of you? Because Jade was sending me pictures of my dress and stuff, and I'd be like, and you think our texts are funny, so I couldn't have
so sometimes I grab her phone to look at text because she'd be giggling or something, and then she'd be like, give it to me, and she'd grab it and swipe it and delete stuff. I'm like, what the hell are you deleting stuff for? And I didn't think nothing bad, but I know if the role was reversed, it'd be a whole different scenario going down. So that morning, she left to the venue, and then I left to pick up a couple things, and then I get there. They were in the middle of decorating the venue area. I'm going around helping, doing little odds and ends. I probably wasn't really helping, but I was there. So I go up to one point and go in the refrigerator. I got shooed out of that area real quick.
I actually slammed the refrigerator door on him.
So
like, there's special beer in there.
And I was like, this is kind of odd, but oh well. And then, we went back to the house, got ready. I still didn't think nothing of it. Then we get back to the venue, and honestly, I didn't notice all the extra photographers.
Well, we had planned that. We had planned the extra photographers, being that the venue had hired us. They're predominantly wedding, but they want to cater to birthdays too. So the venue host came up to us and said, hey, if you see some videographers or photographers around, I've hired them to put some stuff on our website.
So it didn't even clue in on me. Walking around, socializing and stuff, I didn't really notice.
But it's funny that you didn't notice, because all my friends have come up afterwards and said, I felt like there was paparazzi everywhere. Every move we made, there was someone with a camera or a video camera, and they felt like everything was. So it's funny that you didn't notice that.
No.
We had 3 videographers and 2 photographers.
Yeah.
There was a lot of cameras.
She asked me the week prior, did you get a birthday cake? I was like, yeah, I got a birthday cake order. I did this. So I got the birthday cake order. So we're at the party. I didn't think nothing of it.
No, you kind of did, because then it's time to go sing happy birthday. I'm going to blow out the candles. And you said, I said, I want you to come up with me. He goes, why? It's your birthday. They don't need me up there. I'm like, well, I just come up and they want you to support me or something. So he did question why he had to come up to the table for me to blow out my candles. But that's a nice fiancé thing to do.
Yeah.
So the hardest part of planning this was, how am I going to ask him, do you want to get married today? That was the hardest part. And then that also fell into place. I was talking to the vendor and he's like, well, have the DJ ask you if you have a birthday wish. I'm like, that's great. And then when I met with the videographers, they came up with this great line about, will you say you marry me tomorrow? What about tonight? So it all just fell into place. And so then that moment at the party, I was nervous. I blew out the candles, and it's almost like, I don't remember exactly. It was just like frozen in time. Christopher, you always say you'd marry me tomorrow. Will you marry me right now? We're gonna turn this birthday party into a wedding. So, Roger, will you marry us? Okay, Roger's gonna marry us. He's gonna take you to go get dressed. And I'm gonna go get dressed. All right, you guys, so while we're going to get dressed, you guys eat the appetizers, get a drink, do the 50th birthday party photo booth, because after the ceremony, it'll all be flipped over to wedding stuff. So, all right, okay. So I'll see you guys in 30 minutes in the barn. But I looked at him and all I could see was blank face. He didn't react, he didn't smile, he didn't say yes right away. But then all of a sudden the guests are starting to catch on what's happening and they're hooping and hollering, and I had some girlfriends start to cry, and then everybody's bringing their cameras over to videotape your reaction to see what it was gonna be. And then he said yes, and then we made the plans to go get dressed, and then the rest is history.
Well, I'm instantly looking around and go, is this like a spoof, like a joke on me or something? I'm looking around like, well, I'm being punked. But, and then I look at her again, she's still sitting there, and I mean, it seemed like forever, but I'm sure it was just seconds, so I'm thinking, I better say something.
It was pretty blank.
So I said yes, and then she says, okay, you got 30 minutes. Well, when she asked my dad if he'd be the officiant and marry us. And I looked over at him and I'm thinking, I think they knew about all this.
Oh, it dawned on you then?
Well, it clued in, yeah, at that point. And still seeing the blank stares on other people's faces, I didn't think anyone really knew. Except then I'm thinking, well, how many of them did know? But so I figured at that point my dad knew, my parents knew, and so I was happy about that.
Did you guys talk about it in your room? Because Roger went with him to the room where they hung out for.
No, we didn't talk about it. He did say, "You sure you're gonna do this?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "All right, she's a good one."
So the transition time, I allotted us 30 minutes. It was hard to find someone who'd do hair and makeup in 30 minutes, so that was probably another big challenge, but I found someone. And the day before, we had stashed the wedding koozies, the wedding cups, the wedding napkins in strategic locations, so that while I was getting dressed, the I Do crew could move everything out and give it to the bartender as they set up the wedding cake.
My buddy Chad pointed out, you got this outfit, or what you're wearing. She's got a letter here for you. This is your new cowboy hat if you want to wear it. And so then he sat down and had a drink. And I'm looking at the clothes, and I pretty much say, I'm keeping my jeans, I'll wear the shirt and the vest and the hat. I went in and changed. And that, when I read her, she wrote me a letter.
And you got to pick the first dance song.
And I got to pick the first
dance song. And the letter I put in there, here's some suggestions, but there's millions of songs we could pick from. Since he didn't get to plan any part of the wedding, I wanted him to pick our first dance.
Yeah, so I walked in with everything started.
With his whiskey.
With my whiskey in my hand. I'm walking with my dad. And I'm walking there and I'm looking around. I'm like, yep, this is for real. So we're walking down. I take a little last drink of the whiskey. I'm like, I don't think I need this right now. So I hand it over to my buddy. And that's when it began.
Yeah, I think the fun part for looking at the pictures now, in hindsight, was because I wanted to know what, and I think I asked several times, what's happening in their room? Is he nervous? Is he excited? Is he, and then watching him walk down the aisle and hand his whiskey over, he didn't look nervous at all. He was just ready to do it.
I didn't really have any thoughts about it. You know, I'm standing up front, looking over everybody and seeing the smiles on everyone's faces, and I was happy. After I walked in, they'd re-shut the doors, and I'm just sitting there looking at everything, saying, you know, this is real. This is going to happen. And so my dad leaves there. He goes, I hope I don't cry, because I'm going to cry. And I'm like, no, you don't. So they opened the doors, and then the light was shining in on her, and yeah, I got tears in my eyes, and just, oh, she's beautiful, and this is going to happen.
Do you give this lady to this man?
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Me too.
Well, surprise, surprise. I thank everyone for coming to the birthday party that ends up being a wedding. I'm glad you come to the birthday party because this is very special. I have a little saying here I'd like to say before we get started here. Little advice for you. I have a lot of advice for you, but I'll just keep it down a little bit here. Let your love be stronger than your hate or your anger. Learn the wisdom of compromise. It's better to bend than it is to break. So believe the best in each other rather than the worst. Debbie, do you take Chris for your lawfully wedded husband?
I do.
Chris, do you take Debbie for your lawfully wedded wife? I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride.
Yeah, so after we got married and we went up and ate, and people are coming up congratulating us and whatnot, and then Debbie goes, did you read the napkin? I said, no, I didn't read it. So I grab it and read it, and I'm reading everything. I'm like, Turks and Caicos, awesome. We've talked about going there. So they were in there dancing, partying, having a good time. And one of our friends comes up, Paul, and he comes up, shakes my hand, says, congratulations. I'm like, oh, you're leaving already? He goes, yeah, but I'll see you in the morning. I'm like, what do you mean you're seeing me in the morning? He goes, oh, we're going too. I was like, you're going to Turks? He's like, yeah. And then all of a sudden, he shut up.
I got in trouble.
And walked away. So I go to Paige. I said, Paige, you guys are going with us? She's like, how do you know? And I said, well, Paul just told me. So then she went and followed Paul. So we had a party that night. We got done with the wedding venue of it, went back to the lodge where everyone was staying. We're talking and hanging out and partying there. And then Debbie says, the Bensons just left for the airport, so we got to get going.
2:30 in the morning. We had a 6 a.m. flight.
So she goes, the Bensons are already on the airport, so we better start getting ready to go. And I'm like, the Bensons, they're going too? I'm like, oh, we talked about this a year ago almost. And so then that part of it clued in. And so I asked her, I said, when we were all talking about a year ago, did you all know about this? Or almost a year ago? I'm like, yeah, that was all in the plans then. So it clued in at that point.
We wore shirts that said, I woke up this way, #married. Of course, we never actually went to bed. We just stayed up with all our friends and family and had a wonderful time.
I'd say one of the interesting deals also on our honeymoon is, well, before I even went, I read the Turks and Caicos deal. She says, I hope you know how to drive on the wrong side of the road.
Oh, yeah.
So then driving around in Turks on the wrong side, right-handed drive vehicle on the wrong side of the road. And every time I go to make a turn, I'm turning on the windshield wipers.
Yeah.
You know, so I wanted to turn right. I flipped the windshield wipers. We'd be here in the States. When we came back, I mean, it was nice to know that she's my wife now, and it's because we've booked reservations and stuff before. We just say Mr. and Mrs. Bates. Then they look at the driver's license, and there's like, well, her last name is this, and I'm like, it's complicated. And then you try to explain stuff to people, and they're like, oh, okay. So, I mean, it was more surreal that we're married now.
I think my thing was when I rented the venue and he showed me the barn doors opening and what it'd be like, and I tried to imagine Chris standing there at the end of the aisle. And then when it happened, and it was just as magical as I had envisioned all those months. And then looking through the pictures of the ceremony, I think we have so many pictures laughing, and I don't know if I've ever seen such a jovial wedding ceremony, but something was cracking us up. And so I just think it was a magical night altogether, but I definitely think that moment was just how I'd envisioned it in my head too. And the hardest part of all this was keeping secrets from my best friend, of course. And so it is a big relief now not to have to delete texts or make sure and not to keep secrets anymore. We'll have everybody there for our vow renewal in 5 or 10 years. Yeah. We'll have a big party. 2026! I like the way you think. That's perfect. We're going to do that.